Bob Hope leaned in, whispered to Johnny Carson, and thought the microphone was off, but 40 million people heard every word, and that moment changed television history. It was March 1983. The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Studio 6B in Burbank. Tuesday night. Bob Hope was the guest, a booking that happened maybe 3 or 4 times a year, always a ratings goldmine, always guaranteed laughs. America's two greatest entertainers sitting across a desk, trading jokes, telling stories, making it look effortless. The show was running perfectly. Johnny had done his monologue to big laughs. The audience was hot. Doc Severinsen and the band were tight. Bob Hope walked out to thunderous applause, settled into the guest chair in that easy way he had, and launched into a story about his recent trip to entertain troops overseas. Everything was going exactly as planned. Bob was 79 years old. Still sharp. Still funny. Still the same rapid-fire delivery that had made him a legend for 5 decades. He told a joke about the military food. The audience roared. He did his signature pause, that little head tilt, and Johnny laughed. Genuine laughter, not the professional kind. They talked for 8 minutes. Easy conversation between two men who'd known each other for over 20 years. Johnny asked about Bob's golf game. Bob asked about Johnny's Nebraska roots. The kind of comfortable banter that made The Tonight Show feel like America's living room. And then, during a commercial break, everything changed. The red lights on the cameras went dark. The floor director called out, "We're clear, 2 minutes." The audience relaxed slightly, that subtle shift that happens when people know they're no longer on television. Johnny reached for his coffee mug. Bob Hope shifted in his chair. And then Bob leaned forward, close to Johnny, and spoke in a voice he thought was private. "Johnny, I need to tell you something." What Bob Hope didn't know, what nobody in the studio realized, was that the boom microphone positioned above them hadn't been cut. The audio engineer in the control room, distracted by adjusting levels for the next segment, hadn't muted the feed. Bob Hope's whisper went out live to 40 million households across America. Carson stopped mid-reach for his coffee. The entire studio froze. "I'm sick, Johnny," Bob said, his voice low but clear, every word caught by that open microphone. "Really sick. The doctors, they don't think I have much time left." Johnny's hand stopped halfway to his coffee mug. His entire body went rigid. His face, that famous face that had maintained perfect composure through thousands of hours of live television, went completely blank with shock. In the control room, producer Fred de Cordova's head snapped toward the audio board. "Is that mic live?" he shouted. "Is that mic live?" The audio engineer's face went white. "Oh God. Oh my God!" "Yes. It's broadcasting. Cut it! Cut it now!" But the engineer hesitated for just 3 seconds, 3 seconds that felt like an eternity. Because cutting audio during what appeared to be a commercial break would alert the technical crew that something was wrong, would create a cascade of confusion, would make everything worse. In those 3 seconds, Bob Hope kept talking. "Stage 4, Bob said, his voice cracking slightly. "Pancreatic. They gave me 6 months. That was 4 months ago." Johnny's coffee mug clattered against the desk. His hand was shaking. "Bob, when did you find out?" "January. I haven't told anyone outside my family. But I needed you to know. You've been a good friend, Johnny. The best in this business." The control room finally cut the mic. Fred de Cordova was screaming into headsets. Bobby Quinn was frantically calling NBC executives. Every phone line in the building started ringing as viewers across America grabbed their phones, calling neighbors, calling family, asking, "Did you just hear that? Did Bob Hope just say?" But in Studio 6B, Johnny Carson and Bob Hope didn't know any of that yet. They thought they were having a private conversation during a commercial break. They didn't know that America had just witnessed something never meant for broadcast. Johnny reached across the desk and grabbed Bob's hand. No cameras were rolling, or so they thought. No audience was watching, or so they believed. Just two old friends, one of them dying, the other trying to process the impossible. How long have you known? Johnny asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 4 months. I kept working. Kept doing shows. Kept traveling. I can't stop, Johnny. The moment I stop, I understand. Do you? Because I don't. I'm 79 years old. I've had the greatest career anyone could ask for. I've made people laugh for 50 years. And I'm terrified. I don't want to go. The audience, sitting in their tiered seats, could hear every word. The boom mic was cut, but they were close enough to hear the raw emotion in Bob Hope's voice. People started crying. Quietly at first, then openly. 300 strangers bearing witness to something achingly private. Ed McMahon, sitting at his announcer's desk off to the side, had tears streaming down his face. Doc Severinsen stood on the bandstand, trumpet in hand, frozen in place. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. The floor director, a veteran named Mike who'd been with The Tonight Show for 12 years, didn't know what to do. They were supposed to come back from commercial in 90 seconds. He was supposed to give Johnny the countdown. But how do you interrupt this? How do you tell two men to stop having this conversation and go back to telling jokes for America? Fred de Cordova made the decision from the control room. Mike, do not interrupt them. We're extending the break. I don't care if we have to run long. Do not interrupt. NBC executives were calling the control room. What the hell is happening? We just broadcast Bob Hope announcing he has terminal cancer. We need a statement. We need. Fred hung up on them. He'd been producing The Tonight Show for 14 years. He'd never hung up on a network executive before. But this wasn't about network protocol. This was about two human beings having a moment that transcended television. On stage, Johnny was still holding Bob's hand across the desk. Have you told anyone else in the industry? No. Just you. And now. Bob stopped, his eyes widening as a horrifying thought occurred to him. Johnny, was the mic on? Johnny looked toward the control room, then at the floor director, who nodded slowly, apologetically. The color drained from Bob Hope's face. Oh God. Oh my God! How much did they hear? I don't know, Johnny said honestly. But Bob, listen to me. Listen. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter? Johnny, I just told 40 million people I'm dying. Then they know, Johnny said firmly. And maybe that's okay. Bob pulled his hand away, covering his face. His shoulders shook. Bob Hope. The man who'd performed for presidents, who'd entertained millions of troops in war zones, who'd hosted the Academy Awards 19 times, who never broke character, never showed weakness, was sobbing on the Tonight Show stage. Backstage, he made a choice no producer would have ever allowed. Fred de Cordova's voice came through the floor director's headset. Tell Johnny we're staying dark. He can have as long as he needs. Mike gave Johnny the signal. Johnny nodded, understanding. Then Johnny Carson did something he'd never done in 21 years of hosting The Tonight Show. He stood up from behind his desk, walked around it, and sat on the edge next to Bob Hope's chair. Not as a host. Not as an entertainer. Just as a friend. The audience gasped softly. In 2 decades, Johnny had never left that desk during a segment. Never. Johnny put his hand on Bob's shoulder. Talk to me. Bob looked up, his famous face streaked with tears. I don't know how to stop being Bob Hope. I don't know how to be a man who's dying. I only know how to be the guy who makes people laugh. Then keep being that guy. For as long as you can. And when you can't anymore, be this guy. The real one. The scared one. The human one. I'm so scared, Johnny. I know. I've lived my whole life on stages. Making people happy. Making them forget their problems for a little while. And now I'm the one who can't forget. I'm the one who needs. I don't even know what I need. Johnny was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that would be quoted in newspapers across America the next morning. You need permission to be human. You've spent 50 years being Bob Hope, superhero entertainer. Now you need to be Bob, a guy who's scared and sad and doesn't have all the answers. And that's okay. That guy deserves to exist too. The studio was silent except for the sound of 300 people crying. Doc Severinsen had put down his trumpet and was wiping his eyes. Ed McMahon had his face in his hands. Camera operators were crying. Sound technicians were crying. The control room was crying. And America was crying. In living rooms across the country, families sat together watching their television screens, bearing witness to something unprecedented. Two legends letting down their guards completely, showing the terrified humans beneath the polished personas. But this was the moment no one in the studio, nor anyone at home, ever saw coming. Bob Hope reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. His hands were shaking as he unfolded it. I wrote something, Bob said, his voice steadier now, quieter. Last week. I've been carrying it around. I didn't know who to show it to. But I think maybe now. Johnny took the paper carefully. It was a single sheet, covered in Bob Hope's handwriting. Surprisingly neat, careful cursive. Can I read it? Johnny asked. Please. Johnny cleared his throat. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. I spent my life making people laugh. I hope that matters. I hope that when I'm gone, someone remembers a joke I told that made their day a little lighter. I hope I gave something good to the world. I hope I was more than just funny. I hope I was kind. I hope I was real, at least sometimes, beneath all the jokes. I hope I didn't waste the gift of making people happy. I hope it counted for something. Johnny stopped reading. He couldn't continue. He folded the paper carefully and handed it back to Bob. It counted, Johnny said, his voice breaking. God, Bob, it counted. You've given more joy to more people than almost anyone who's ever lived. Your life has mattered in ways most people can't even imagine. Bob took the paper back, clutching it against his chest. Thank you. Johnny looked directly at the camera that was supposed to be dark but that Fred de Cordova had quietly ordered turned back on 3 minutes ago. I know we're supposed to be entertaining you right now, Johnny said, addressing America directly. I know you tuned in for laughs and celebrity gossip and everything the Tonight Show usually gives you. But right now, I need you to understand something. The man sitting next to me is one of the greatest entertainers who ever lived. And he's scared. And he's human. And if you take one thing away from tonight, let it be this. The people who make you laugh carry the same pain you do. They just carry it while trying to make your life better. He turned back to Bob. What do you need? Bob was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I need to keep working. I need to keep performing. For however long I have. I can't sit at home waiting. I need stages and audiences and laughter. Can you understand that? Completely, Johnny said. Then that's what you'll do. And this show, my show, will support that for as long as you want. You want to come back next week? Next month? Whenever? The chair is yours. Bob nodded, unable to speak. Johnny stood up, returned to his desk, and picked up his blue cue cards. He looked at them for a moment, then set them down. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny said, addressing the studio audience, we're going to take another break. And when we come back, Bob Hope and I are going to tell you some of the funniest stories you've ever heard. Because that's what he does. That's who he is. And that's what we all need right now. The audience stood. Not applauding yet. Just standing in respect. Bob Hope wiped his eyes, straightened his jacket, and found his smile again. You got any good golf jokes, Carson? About 1,000. Johnny said, his voice still thick but steadying. Then let's make them laugh. And they did. For the remaining 20 minutes of the show, Johnny Carson and Bob Hope told jokes and stories and made America laugh through their tears. It was the highest-rated Tonight Show episode in 5 years. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. Bob Hope lived 19 more years. Not 6 months. 19 years. He performed almost until the end. He credited that night, the night he stopped pretending, with giving him permission to be human while still being Bob Hope. The handwritten note he showed Johnny was donated to the Smithsonian after Bob's death in 2003. It sits in a frame next to Johnny's blue cue cards from that night. Johnny Carson never spoke publicly about that episode again. But every year on the anniversary, he sent Bob Hope a simple card. Still counting.